Today, my name is Juna Hill, and I'm the advertising manager at Supercharged Commerce, where we specialize on accelerating growth for ambitious retailers. And we are joined today by Karl and Chris. So I'll pass it on to you guys to introduce yourselves.
Yeah, thanks for having me, June. I'm Karl, as you mentioned, from WakeupData. So we're a partner with you guys, with Supercharged Commerce. We deal specifically with product feeds, and we've recently partnered with Google to run their local inventory ads. So yeah, I'll pass over to Chris.
Hey, I'm Chris Lydle. I lead up our local shopping partnerships at Google, and I'm very excited to be here to talk to you today about local inventory ads.
It's great. So again, we are going to be focusing on local inventory ads, which is one of the tools that Google offers to help mainly retailers that have physical stores. So what we're going to be speaking on today, we're going to talk about why we're doing this webinar now and share some of the insights on how consumer and shopping behavior has changed in the last year. We're going to be looking at what local inventory ads are and how they can help retailers. And we're going to go through a case study just to show how this can work in real life. So, Karl, I'm just going to pass it on to you because you can give us a bit of an overview on how WakeupData works with product feeds and then how that can be implemented when someone is trying to run local inventory ads.
Of course. So in terms of product feeds, we help online and offline retailers in the UK, across the Nordics, and now across the world to connect to different sales channels with their optimized data. So specifically, we work with Google Shopping, Facebook, among an array of channels that we'll come on to later. Mm-hmm. But in a nutshell, we import the data, the product data in various different ways into our platform. We then provide the ability for e-commerce managers to optimize their product data, automate a lot of the updates, and then connect to various different sales channels. So some of the features that are involved with our platform, we have an expressions-based optimization system where we provide, I think it's over 100 ways of optimizing the data. So that's product titles, descriptions. We can also create feeds and enrich feeds through crawling and scraping, create rules. We can also filter products out that may be out of stock or out of a low inventory. We also have the ability to transform product images and optimize them, not for Google Shopping, obviously, but for paid social, amongst other features that we're constantly adding.
Great.
So with regards to our experience with channels and our partnerships, as you can see, all the big ones there, Google, Facebook, Amazon, we connect to all these different channels. We have preset templates that make it super straightforward in terms of the requirements for each channel. And in terms of partnerships, with Google Shopping partner, we have our own comparison shopping service, we're part of a Facebook accelerator, and we're very proud now to be part of Google's local inventory ads program.
Mm-hmm. Sounds great. And like we said before, we do partner with you guys and we have been using your services for some of our e-commerce clients. It has made it a lot easier to make changes to product feeds and optimize them, where historically it's been a lot more difficult and we had to have the dev team involved. We can just make these changes really, really fast now, which is great.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Yeah, we take the time that e-commerce managers would have spent updating things manually, and we automate that. So that is the goal ultimately.
Mm-hmm. Great. So yeah, it'll be really good to hear how you can help retailers with their local inventory ads. I wanted to touch on why we are doing this webinar now. So we know, especially in the last year, we've obviously had a massive change on how people shop, with a lot of the stores being closed. We've seen a really big surge of online shopping. And it's just a really good time to kind of review how these shopping habits have changed. But the reality is that a lot of retailers, they still have physical stores and they are kind of finding that difficulty now on how do we get people that are shopping online back into stores whenever they can, whenever they open again, or even now if you offer things like online pickup. So do you want to take us through some of the insights that you have that you can share?
Yeah, so I think if we thought of the top three words that describe the situation that we're in at the moment, obviously the back end of 2020 and certainly now in 2021 in the brick and mortar industry, we'd probably say it's uncertain, challenging, disruptive. With these ongoing restrictions, they've enforced changes in all our shopping behavior. So we're all trying to limit those unnecessary trips to local stores. And ultimately, those local stores want to attract foot traffic and utilize online possibilities. And they need to do that now more than ever.
Mm-hmm.
So people don't want to waste time by visiting a store, not finding the products that they're after or the products out of stock. So the ability to list in-store product information and extra product details is becoming crucial to the buyer's journey from online to offline.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at some of the figures, I think they speak for themselves. So 33% of all Google searches are now location-based, with 44% of all users confirming online that the product's available before they even attempt to visit an online store, a brick and mortar store, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And 80% of people are reporting that they're more likely to go to a store if they can view the inventory online. And in particular, 100% year-on-year growth in searches for available near me. And I think it's key to point out as well that even if we weren't in the midst of a pandemic, I think there's definitely a shift to people supporting local businesses. I know certainly myself, I like to support my local community, local stores, and the whole pandemic has shifted people into the digital space. I think some clients that probably were a bit hesitant to move online in the past have been forced to. So you have the ability to support local businesses, and local businesses have the ability now to move into that digital space, which they probably wouldn't have been so keen to do in the past.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really interesting that you mentioned, because there was some research done by McKinsey and it said we had gone through a decade in days or weeks. So it would have taken a decade to get to the point we are now, with so many people buying online and using all these online shopping capabilities. And people have just adopted it really quickly because they didn't have another option. There's also the fact that less people are working in offices. So a lot of these on-the-go consumption you used to do on the way home, and you would stop and buy something. Now you need to go out of your way to go to the store and buy it. And you don't want to do that if you don't know the stock is going to be available. So it's a lot easier to get these people in the stores if you can give them a glimpse of what you're stocking. So yeah, really, really interesting landscape at the moment. So we wanted to move into what local inventory adds and how they can help bridge that gap from people that are shopping online, how we can convince them to go to the actual brick and mortar store to buy the product. So I'm going to hand it over to Chris, who will have some very good insights on this.
Great. Very excited to be with you here today. And I don't, next slide. So I'm Chris Lydle. I head up, as I said before, I head up our local shopping partnerships at Google, and really excited to be with you all today. And, you know, as Karl and June were saying, we've really had some major changes in the way that folks shop. And a lot of these trends were underway before coronavirus, and coronavirus really just accelerated that, right? So we saw the growth of click and collect in, in certain markets. We saw the growth of delivery services, but it was really coronavirus that accelerated all those behaviors, not only for the shopper, but also for the merchants who have been stepping up. And when you look at some of the really the big names that are out there in retail, the really biggest providers, they've been able to do a lot of things with click and collect and delivery, and they've been doing some very effective advertising as well. And so I want to share with you a little bit about local inventory ads, which a lot of the big guys are using, but we also think are going to be a great fit for all merchants and really capitalize on some of these trends that we've been seeing. And what it really comes down to is that local inventory ads are all about triggering when a shopper is looking for local products. So when there's a local product search at the very top of that page, that's where local inventory ads are going to surface. And I'm going to go into some more detail about this in a couple of slides about all the great places where local inventory data can be surfaced on Google. But at the core of it, local inventory ads are really all about finding that product intent that the shopper is showing and then driving that shopper to either a Google hosted local storefront that we can put together for the merchant, or even better, we want to drive the traffic to the merchant's own landing page for a number of reasons. But it's all about drawing the shortest line possible between a shopper looking for a local product and then getting them over to the merchant as quickly as possible. And a little bit more detail here. I mean, I think, just kind of more of the same in the sense that whether the shopper is looking to do a pickup that day or whether they're looking to do some delivery. And we've even got a new pickup later functionality. So if it's an item that the shop doesn't have in the store at the moment, the shopper can be told that the item can be delivered to the store for pickup at a later time. So for whatever the mechanism is, it's really all about driving shoppers into your store location. And what this slide is really all about is illustrating the various ways that a shopper might start their shopping journey. On the far left is a specific product search. They might be looking for a particular brand of dog food. And in that case, you can see that within the little maps pack beneath there, that we're illustrating that particular item, that particular branded product is in stock at that particular local location. But we also get navigational search, right? There might be times when somebody is looking for a particular store, but in a particular geography, and they might actually put in their search San Francisco or Munich or one of these types of locations. So in that case, we can actually bounce into a Google My Business location, right? And within Google My Business, we can actually look and do some searches of what's in the store from within Google My Business. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. And then next is we might have a categorical search, right? Where somebody's looking for dog food near them. And they might put in there that it's in Mountain View or in Munich, but we also might just use geolocation to infer that shopper is looking for dog food near them and highlight the ad at that time. And then finally, we also have occasions where the shopper is starting by looking for a particular chain, right? In this case, Petco. They do that search for Petco, and then from within there, they get a list of all the Petco locations and can also search the inventory that comes up from within those listings.
Mm-hmm. So that's really
near me, Yeti cooler near me. And what highlights there are a variety of places in the maps package there, starting with the Dick's Sporting Goods at the very top. And you see within there, there's a blue checkbox. And that blue checkbox is really the strongest affirmation that we can make to the shopper that we believe that that item is in stock, because Dick's Sporting Goods actually sent us a feed letting us know that that Yeti cooler is in stock in that location. On the other hand, the one right beneath it, though, you'll see sold here products from Yeti. And that's more of a situation where Google is kind of spidering sites, looking to see if the brand might be there. However, we get better click-throughs when we have that blue check mark there that shows this item is in stock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see definitely that would bring people to click through and visit that store more, and it gives you that competitive advantage versus someone who doesn't display that tick.
That's right. And then on the next slide is where we start going into a little bit more detail on see what's in store. And I alluded to this a few slides earlier. And if you're familiar with Google My Business is your listing as a merchant that you're able to set up on Google that has your store hours, your location. It's what shows up when people are doing map searches, basically. You've got reviews, there's a ton of things that you can do with Google My Business. It's a fantastic product. One of the things that folks don't always know is that when you provide your inventory data to Google, your inventory data is then searchable on your Google My Business listing. So if I'm a shopper and I click on that Dick's Sporting Goods Google My Business listing and I'm looking for reviews and I'm looking for store hours, I can actually search the contents of that particular store right from within Google My Business. And that's a service that's absolutely free when you provide your inventory data to Google.
So that's a really good way to display what you have in store, somewhere where people probably didn't even know they could.
Absolutely. And there is some effort that goes into providing your local inventory data. And, that's why it's great to have great partners, like WakeupData who can facilitate that and make that happen. But we want everybody to know that after you provide us that inventory data, there's a whole bunch of places where it's going to show up, whether you're doing local inventory ads or just doing some of these free organic placements.
Mm-hmm.
And another one of these great free organic placements is on our shopping tab, which is free local listings. And so this is, when you're in your Google search and you do the search box Yeti cooler near me, and when you click over to the shopping tab, you can see then you will have these free listings that then show up as well. And again, these cost absolutely nothing to you as a merchant. When you're providing us with that inventory data, it shows up for free on this tab, and it also shows up for free for folks that have the Google Shopping app.
Great.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, these are all the great locations where local inventory ads are currently available. We have some additional ones that are going to be rolling out very soon that are currently in some beta markets, and we're looking to continually grow our coverage. But very excited that WakeupData is here to work with us to onboard partners in a number of great regions.
Mm-hmm. Sounds great. You definitely covered all the capabilities that this is going to give retailers versus the ones that are not benefiting from this, the competitive advantage they're going to have. And in fact, you have a case study. So this is something that has been used with one of the brands, and you were going to just give us a quick run through on it.
Absolutely. So for those of you familiar with Chibo, they're a great retailer in DACH countries, over 550 locations. And I've been working with Google for quite some time, but decided they wanted to start getting involved in local inventory ads.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the next slide, we start talking about the value that they've actually gotten from these experience. So in order to capture local demand, they've made their local inventory searchable through local inventory ads. And there's a local annotation that allows shoppers to quickly identify which products are available near them. And you can see there on the side that there's little notations. It looks like a product listing ad, but there's an additional notation that tells the shopper that the product actually is available in stores near them. Mm-hmm. So first of all, we started with putting the pick up today, also known as click and collect tab annotation in there across all of our DACH countries. And we started steering our shopping campaigns as kind of a best practice hybrid campaign with featuring local visits. So, considering that Chibo obviously had a very challenging fourth quarter, as a lot of local retailers did with COVID, they also implemented pickup later opportunities across all of their online only locations. And as I mentioned earlier, the pickup later item allows you to place an order or to note to the shopper that you are able to have that item delivered to the store within a certain amount of time. So, with COVID, supply chains have been disrupted a little bit. So sometimes folks, it might take a retailer a day or two to actually get an item in stock. And the pickup later annotation is a great solution for that. It still allows you to advertise, but also lets the shopper know that it might be a day or two before they can actually pick it up in the location.
It also helps to ensure that sale instead of people moving on somewhere else because they think they can't get it from you.
Absolutely. And, I think one of the things that we know during the COVID crisis is there's a real interest for shoppers in being able to shop local, whether it's a local owned store or even if it's a national chain. Those are local workers in their community, right? Those are their neighbors who, want to, keep their jobs. So we really want to make certain that it's easy for folks to buy local, even if they have to wait a day or two to go pick it up at the store. Mm-hmm. And then finally, we complemented the local inventory ads with local campaigns. Local campaigns are another great ad solution that, again, just highlight the fact that you're available for these particular products in a particular location. Mm-hmm. And this next slide talks a little bit about the great results that we got. And the first thing that you'll see is that, we had a 35% cost per click reduction in LEA as opposed to product listing ads. And product listing ads are fantastic, but we were able to get a pretty substantial discount on cost per click by switching to Leah. But at the same time, we also got a much better click-through rate as opposed to PLA, right? A lift of 12%. So what we're seeing is decreased cost, increased efficacy, great solution there for a local advertiser. And then we also saw, comparing the store visit to PLA, a 59% drop in cost per store visit. So, even though we can optimize PLA to store visit metrics, we're just seeing a much better return on that metric for local inventory ads. And then likewise, we saw a great lift in the number of captured store visits that we saw year over year, a lift of 70%. So local inventory ads had a great quantifiable impact. And then likewise, our local campaigns also drove 33% lift in captured store visit. And again, had great efficacy, great ROI with a decrease of 79% cost per store visit as opposed to other media channels. So what we're able to do is really have a very tightly targeted ad campaign that highlights location, that highlights local inventory, and demonstrate really great efficacy. And it's been a real pleasure working with Chibo on achieving that.
There's some amazing results that you got in there. And it's definitely interesting what you've touched upon, how these tools can help businesses to increase their footfall to stores. And something that I always found really interesting, and it's been compounded now with people shopping more online, it's how easy it is to change the stores when you're shopping online, because you just need to open another tab and you're somewhere else. Whereas if you're in the physical store, it's a lot more difficult. It takes a lot more effort to go to a different stores that sells the same products. So anything we can do to help bridge that gap and get people to the store, whether it's by buying something and picking it later, or just going to the store because they know the product is there, is going to be a lot more difficult for the competition to reach that customer that's buying from you now. So yeah, definitely really, really good results from this tool. And we touched before in the fact that it can be a little bit difficult or time consuming to set this up. So I wanted to bring Karl back in because they do offer this solution to their clients. So do you want to tell us a bit more, Karl, about what you can do to help retailers use this tool?
Of course. So we find that one of the main barriers, and Chris will probably back this up, to people accessing Leah is the technical requirements. We speak to agencies, we speak to e-commerce managers, and people's knowledge of product feeds varies wildly from not knowing anything to being really well versed in the product feed world. So we're on hand to provide the support and the setup that A, companies don't have, or B, they would have to outsource and it would cost them a lot of money, time and resources. So we provide the free onboarding and setup. We also offer free support. And we are the only official partner in Scandinavia. Now that doesn't restrict us to only working with partners in Scandinavia. We can work with partners all over the globe, obviously including the UK. So we will provide expert guidance on how to manage the Google Leah feed, how to generate your feed in the first place, and how to optimize the data so you get the most out of Google Leah ads.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the process, we usually look for a 2 to 4 week turnaround, which will involve you reaching out to us. We need to get verification from Chris and the guys at Google that your products are in store. Google need to accept that, and then we will implement the feeds. In terms of the technical requirements, there's 3 different accounts that are needed to run Leah. That'll be Google Ads, My Business account, and the Merchant Center account.
Mm-hmm.
You then need to activate local inventory ads in the Merchant Center account. Verify the about page, so the physical address, contact info, etc. Then we need a primary feed uploaded. So that'll be a list of all the products you sell with all the different attributes that describe that product. We deal with feeds on a daily basis, so it's common that we receive feeds that miss certain attributes. So just to make it clear, if you have a feed that maybe is missing product titles or missing images, we can crawl or scrape websites and add those additional attributes to enrich the feed. So you're working with the most up-to-date data and the most enriched data that is then sent out to potential consumers.
Mm-hmm.
So once that local inventory feed is uploaded, it'll list all the products that are in store in each physical location. So that'll be IDs, stock levels, and prices primarily, which we can then match up with the original feed. Then it's registered and we send the local feeds, and then we wait for verification from Google regarding the local inventories.
Mm-hmm.
The process, as I mentioned in the next slide, it can be rather complex. So we will help simplify that. The Google Shopping feed is merged with in-store product data. So we know exactly what is in each particular store, whether you have one store or 100 stores. We have stock levels, we have local prices, and obviously Google is aware of the local location.
Mm-hmm.
Through our platform, then the product data is optimized. We then connect you to the merchant center, and the address is received from Google My Business. We can also receive error management as well. So if your products haven't been imported or there's any issues, that'll be fed back to us.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's a great feature, because I'm guessing seeing the process is not just that you have the expertise, but you can help save the time of someone having to do this. But also, if there's any issues with the product data and there's any errors coming through, then you can help retailers work through them and fix them.
Exactly. We'll be online on hand to provide support on our experience on how to optimize a product title. People, particularly varying from industry to industry, do we need to add a brand? Do we need to add color, size, patterns? So we can handle all that. We can optimize it so e-commerce managers can spend their time, working on things that are more relevant and they're more well versed in.
Mm-hmm. So if someone wanted to start advertising on Leah, what kind of product descriptions or items would they need? What kind of data would you need?
So we need the product data, such as title, description, item ID, same as if you're connecting to Google Shopping or Facebook, that original product feed. We also then need price data. So if it's a sales price, local in-store prices, obviously they can fluctuate. One store might have an offer or a promotion that potentially is not in other stores, so that needs to be accurate. We then need store codes, product IDs, and quantities, so we know exactly what is in each store. And also pickup data. So Chris mentioned the rise of curbside pickup or click and collect. That needs to be in there as well. So potential consumers are advised of how they can get their hands on the product. So as well as providing our experience, holding the hand of e-commerce managers and helping them, providing assistance, there's also a bottom line savings involved as well. So we've analyzed a number of different sizes of merchants, whether they have less than 10,000 SKUs to above 50,000 and how many stores they have. So in terms of setup, that'll be included regardless of size. We will handle the setup, and that will be free of charge. That, I would say, is the most time consuming part.
Mm-hmm.
And not just that, it's the biggest barrier. If you have a feed that's not rich with attributes, connecting to Google Shopping or Google Leah, your ads are not going to perform as well as you expect. So it is all based on the setup and the quality of the data that you're working with. We also then provide the monthly feed to Google Leah through the Merchant Center for free. So as you can see, there are examples of different types of savings dependent on the size of the merchant.
Okay.
There are some obligations and requirements in terms of ad spend, but again, they vary due to the size of the merchant. So I think anybody who is interested in setting these up, we can analyze it on a case-by-case basis. Just reach out. We will look into your current setup, analyze your current feed, carry out an audit. Then we would need some details regarding ad spend, and we can speak to Chris, speak to Google, and hopefully get you guys set up.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It seems like a really good way to get started with this if it's something that a retailer hasn't tried before and they might need a bit of support from you. Sounds great. So thank you so much to both of you, Chris, for giving us an overview on what LIA is and how it works, and also to Karl for letting us know how we can support retailers to implement this in their businesses. We did have a few questions that were sent to us when people signed up to the webinar. So we're just going to put some of them out there, and it'll be great to get your insights as well. So one of them was about whether local inventory ads are accessible to all advertisers with physical stores. And I know we touched a bit on the size of the business. The case study was for a kind of global company, but we've also touched on how people are wanting to support local business. So is this something that would be implemented easily on someone with, say, not a huge amount of stores?
Absolutely. We want everybody to participate, from, a small single store, all the way up to the largest chains. And we've got folks that are doing that. The opportunity is the same for everyone, right? And the only requirement is that you be in one of the markets in which LIA has already been launched.
Mm-hmm. Sounds great. And someone was asking as well what types of businesses or advertisers would usually want to use local inventory ads. So in terms of what I was thinking, there's going to be some businesses where people still want to go to the store, and those could be a pretty good option. So anything like clothing, we have a client that sells paint, and people are still working to go to the store and pick up the paint in there rather than doing it online. So do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, actually, and I'll let Karl weigh in too, so I'm not just hogging the microphone here. But one of the things that we've seen in our research is that over the holiday season, 77% of shoppers were starting their search for what their holiday gifts online before they went to the store. Mm-hmm. So I think for everybody, this is the new shopper behavior. So regardless of what vertical you're in, regardless of what category you're in, folks are starting to do their searching online. And you want to be certain that you're being thought of when that search starts online. But as far as we've seen a lot of success with pet foods, with pet stores, with hardware stores. We're starting to see a lot of growth in grocery, right? And apparel is another one where folks, even though they want to go to the store, they want to touch it, they want to feel it, they still want to know, if that particular brand of Adidas or that particular model of Adidas is in that particular store before they go there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was reading some research that said that even with lockdown, even with the boom of buying online, 61% of shoppers, they still rather buy from brands that have a physical location. Because right. If there's any issues, they can go there, they can go and look at different things, touch different things. So it's definitely something that's here to stay. I agree. And it could be any kind of vertical, any industry that could benefit.
And
that's right.
As well, I don't know about you guys, but as soon as those stores are open, I think there's going to be a massive influx of people into stores, trying to get back to normal, enjoying the experience of going to a physical store. And in terms of omni-channel and the customer journey, as Chris mentioned, people starting that research online and then going into physical stores. That allows for this to be maintained and for it to be leveraged by physical stores.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you for that. And I just have one last question, and I thought this is a bit, well, it's interesting because this is not quite focused on LIA in particular. It's a bit more broad. So this one is asking, what is the evolution of marketing kind of related to e-commerce in 2021? Which again, I'll open the floor to answers. It's quite a broad question. Something that I found quite interesting from the kind of features that are available in advertising and the clients I've been working with, we've always been very focused on keywords and just reaching the kind of right people at the right time with keyword matches. There's been a few changes that have happened in the last few months. One of them is the kind of broad keywords being discontinued and phrase kind of taking over. And there seems to be a bit of a push towards focusing on keyword themes and audiences and audience intent and using machine learning to optimize the campaign. So kind of relinquishing that control and focusing on other things that is not what historically we have been doing as advertisers. So I thought that was a really interesting theme for me for 2021, how we have to start thinking a bit differently on how we reach people.
I think just to add to that on a different note as well, that it's always been seen as online stores pitted against, those physical stores. And what you're seeing here is the marriage of those physical stores sort of trying to beat e-commerce at its own game. And unless those physical stores adapt, then the high street will be a thing of the past, or it'll certainly be not what it used to be pre-pandemic. So I think Google Lear is attempting to level the playing field where those physical stores can make use of online opportunities to drive people in store. So I think that's a really interesting development.
And again, building on that, Karl, I think it is just kind of this drive towards omni-channel, right? So you've got, folks like grocers who were not really thinking about e-commerce as part of their mix, right? And so now they're building front ends, they're looking at delivery, and so they're having to build a lot of the best practices that pure online merchants have been doing for decades. But they're needing to understand that they're needing to hire development staffs that are capable of developing and managing those types of infrastructures. And again, we've seen pressure from a lot of the big boxes who have done a lot with omni-channel, and they've been able to really push some of their smaller competitors to also figure out how they can do click and collect and same day delivery and pick up later and all these additional capabilities. And one of the things I think is one of the most telling signs of this convergence is we're finally starting to see the blending of marketing teams, where it's no longer the offline marketing team and the online marketing team who have different budgets and different objectives. And we're actually starting to see those teams come together and recognize that it's a win if the shopper makes it to the store without stopping at the website first. That's a win. If the shopper goes to the website first and then places a buy online, pick up in store order, that's a win too. And so they need to stop artificially differentiating between those two different types of wins. And we're seeing a lot of those teams start to come together.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a really good point. And I can see that in the conversations that I used to have with clients, whereas they would tell me we sell 60% of our products offline, the rest is online. And then if started selling more online, it would mean they were losing those customers offline. And it's kind of changing that mindset to it's all supporting each other. So if someone is finding you online, there's no reason we can't find ways to get them to store. If someone has visited your store, we can make sure that we are supporting their relationship with us online as well, and just get the teams working together. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think that was all the questions I had to share with you. Thank you so much again for joining us and for making the time to take us through local inventory ads. I'm sure a lot of our viewers are going to get a lot from this. And